Too often we feel as if the heartache, the harsh conditions, and the struggling that we've endured has given us strength. We give it credit for our strength. I see it in the black and brown communities, especially amongst the men, the liquor stores on every corner, the aggressive conditions, the mental illness in the neighborhoods, the drug issues and the mental illness that's going unchecked, the way that the police subjugate you and with this systematic racism and all of those things get mixed up together. And it creates a condition of harshness, and we give pushing through those conditions credit for our strength. Why would we give something that has created so much pain and heartache, separation of families, dehumanization, a systematic system that's built to break us down? Why would you give something credit like that for something as beautiful and as powerful as your essence, which is your strength? I hear it in some women's stories that's been in abusive relationships, and they make it out of these relationships, and they give all of those years of being taken advantage of. They give all of those years of being abused and neglected and disrespected credit for their strength. And I know it would take some strength to get through that. But if you think something that has beat you down and has left you with emotional wounds and emotional trauma has given you strength, then you won't seek the help and the healing that you need to be completely self-actualized, self-aware, and completely self-thriving. And I'm not saying that people who has lived a life of heartache and hardship are without strength. A wounded lion is still a lion, but a wounded lion can never be king as long as it's wounded. If you think that these things has given you strength, you're not understanding that to get through these bad situations, you are in survival mode. You're in survival mode. And once you're out of survival mode, if you think that these things have given you that strength, that survival mode, because people hold on to what they consider their strengths to be, you're going to hold on to that energy. And when you're in survival mode, I've been there. Trust me. When you're in survival mode, you're willing to do things and take chances that you otherwise wouldn't take in order to change your circumstances and your situation. And that's a very unhealthy and dangerous energy to exist in. And that's that spur of the moment thinking. And it's very unhealthy. It's unhealthy mentally. It's unhealthy emotionally. And I remember when I was young, I'm guilty of it. When I was young, I actually thought that if you had a mother and a father in your home, you were a little bit softer. I thought that you were privileged. I thought that, you didn't have as much energy and fire. But that's a taught thinking. Think about that. I'm thinking you're privileged to have a mother and a father. That's privileged. But that's the thinking that we get. So with that thinking, I'm suggesting that no discipline, lack of guidance, lack of being made to be held accountable somehow made me stronger. But, sometimes we go into things and we're forgetting that it takes love. It takes positive reinforcement to be at the top of your game. And sometimes you have to be that for yourself. But you have to understand that if you have been hurt, been going through some pain and some trauma, and you can't take that and rock with it confidently like that has given you strength, because you're going to find yourself less tolerant. You're going to find yourself unapproachable, or you're either going to be too rigid or you're going to find yourself too vulnerable. Abuse and pain are not remedies to growth and healing. So I just want y'all to be all right mentally and on the right path to understand, what that true strength is. And I'm not saying, a bit of struggle isn't required, and it isn't required in life. Of course, you need that for some resolve. You need that, for character, but too much struggle looks an awful lot like suffering to me. So we have to be mindful of the things that we give credit for our strength and our essence. You know, like I told, like when I was a younger father, I was real hard on my son. I was real hard on my son because I wanted him to be strong. And to this day, he kind of crazy because, you know, he ended up being a cage fighter, but he'd be like, Dad, you wasn't that bad. I'm like, ninja, ask anybody else. I'd lost my mind. So, but I was a 18-year-old father. And with my second son, I'm in my 30s, you know, with him. He's 19 now, but I was in my 30s when he was born. And I came to an understanding that if I wanted my son to be strong and to be a man, all I had to do was give him an example of one. That's it. And these are the things that we look for to get our strength in. You know, the examples, not the things that exudes love, not the things that beat you down and tear you down and nag at you. Those things don't give you strength. It just puts you into survival mode. And survival mode, like I say, is a dangerous place to exist at. And that's a dangerous place to give something so precious and needed as your strength in life. Because when you need your strength, you're going to dumb down to that survival mode energy. And you're tricking yourself and thinking that that's strength. And it's not. Just like if you get into a fight and you are angry, you're more likely to lose to someone who has a cooler head. So that kind of energy, that hurt energy, it doesn't serve you well. You know, it lies to you. So if you think, don't give credit. If you're thinking something that has already torn and beat you down has made you stronger, you need to go back and reevaluate that and kind of, you know, recalibrate your mindset on that. We are the most highest people. We was built with strength. We don't need to go through nothing to tap into that. You know, we just need some love. We need some examples. We need some positive people in our life, I understand. But we have to leave that survival mode energy right where it's at because it won't serve you well moving forward.